Hey, Dr. Cindy here. I'm hoping that the reception is better. I'm thinking it is because it's a lot faster than on my PC. Um, Anybody who gets on, please feel free to share. This video essay is going to chafe a few, but as I say in all my videos, I'm not here to console or to soothe feelings. Hey, Ken. This video essay is called Getting Over Themselves. Understanding whiteness as the problem. Whenever questions arise around matters of race and racism, I discovered that white people have a preoccupation with their seeming lack of understanding as it relates to Black culture, Black people, and in short, Blackness. It would seem that the vantage point for white people begins and ends with ideas of either relating or not relating to such Blackness. Within this frame, there is no wonder why there is such difficulty talking about racism. See, there's a difference between racism and Blackness. Whether it is with other white people or sometimes even when so engaged with Blacks, other Black people. In my opinion, white people simply must get over themselves and realize they've been virtually sold the biggest big-ass lie, or what I like to call the grand deception, if you will. In the same way that Black people were physically sold into bondage. And I'm going to read that again because I want you to understand what I'm saying. In my opinion, white people simply must get over themselves and realize they have been virtually sold the big lie or the grand deception, if you will, in the same way that Black people were physically sold into bondage. White people have been royally duped, and their minds are the spoils of their capture. Let me repeat that. White people have been royally duped, and their minds are the spoils of their capture. Open your minds, because when I talk sometimes, or when I'm educating about stuff, sometimes it makes your brain want to explode. People with wealth and power created the white skin myth, and that's what it is, people. It's a god dang it myth, because they had to contend with the hoi polloi, or common people, who shared the same white color. Class status was useless for the masses of poor whites in America because they were as poor as, or in some cases worse off economically than the newly freed slaves. So through what can only be called a major feat of mass hypnotic suggestion, those wealthy and powerful elites were successful in conceptualizing and thereby convincing the poor masses of white people that even in the midst of their own poverty, and Black people, I ain't telling you something you don't already know, but it needs to be reiterated for those who in the back there that don't know, or, and of course for white people who just never even had to think about this kind of stuff. Okay? So through what can only be called a major feat of mass hypnotic suggestion. Those wealthy and powerful elites were successful in conceptualizing and thereby convincing the poor masses of white people that even in the midst of their own poverty and desperation, they were better than the people whose skins were not the color white. Yes, all it took. I even wrote a post on this because somebody was just, I caught hell yesterday because apparently it was Kate Smith's birthday, that racist person who deserves no exaltation, but who has somehow become a deity here in Philadelphia. Because the Flyers were smart enough to get rid of her statue because she's racist. I digress. However, all it took was a notion and the impetus for the system of racism and white supremacy that we all must live under today was spawned. Okay? All it took was a notion and a little land and a little money. Give him a little land, give him a little money. Not enough to matter, really, but to create classes so we can subjugate them as well. We'll tell them that they're better than the black people. So all it took was that. All the while, the real power driving this ship of fools was and still is controlling all of us. By now, and this is the honest to God truth, by now I would hope that most, if not all, white people have at least realized that the use of skin color is a ludicrous and downright stupid way to determine supremacy. I mean, come on. What does it take for white people to understand that the color of someone's skin has nothing to do with whether you're better than them or not? And absent that color, there is absolutely nothing else on this earth that makes you superior. Which is why the system of racism was designed and created, so that there would always be a thumb on the scale for appearances, basically. So by now, I would hope that most, if not all, white people have at least realized that the use of skin color is a ludicrous and downright stupid way to determine supremacy of a group of people, especially since it makes even less sense when working in tandem with class as an economic and social construct, since this was also a self-perpetuating notion conceptualized and sold to the masses of white people to do what? To divide themselves from themselves. So what is keeping white people from recognizing the nature of this stupidity and asking the right questions? And I'm talking about the questions of racism, not of blackness, of racism and white supremacy. Okay? So what is keeping white people from recognizing the nature of this stupidity and asking the right questions? What is preventing them from speaking openly and honestly to themselves, about their own race? One of the main problems I've encountered when reading posts by white people to white people is that scrutinizing blackness will inevitably arise, and group blackness will become a point of contention. Rampant stereotypical definitions with no honest engagement, only opposition, defense, and explanations of each illogical view will become the convoluted state of any discussion. In addition, white people will detach themselves even further from their collectivity and attack the individual behaviors of overt white bigots, refusing, and here's what's important here, refusing to acknowledge their larger mutual history and behavior which produced the bigotry and the bigot in the first place. In my view, therefore, approaching race from the vantage point of, quote, understanding blackness is not the correct and meaningful way to confront issues of race for white people. Inasmuch as black people in America must learn whiteness in all its famed beauty and culture and its supposed illustrious and victorious history, absent any mention of black contribution, it is still not necessary for white people to learn how blackness functions, and it isn't necessary because black people are not the problem. I'm going to take a little break here and tell you if you'd like to share this among people that you think might be interested in this video essay, please do. Please share it. If you've got people that may be interested as a live discussion that might have questions or comments or concerns about what I'm talking about, may not agree with me and think I'm just blowing smoke up your butt, or just she is literally insane, do bring them on. Just invite them. Invite some people over to this live. Anyway, it is still not necessary for white people to learn how blackness functions, and it isn't necessary because black people are not the problem. Let me repeat, black people are not the problem. Besides, scientists have been studying black people for centuries already. They believe they have blackness down to a science. No. White people don't need to understand blackness. White people have to understand whiteness. Let's face it. Whiteness disappeared for 3 generations. Since the Civil Rights Act was signed in 1968, whiteness disappeared and was replaced with terms such as normal, neutral, natural, nude. White was not expressed as a collective state of being anymore. Now, for those of you who were not born during that period of time prior to the 60s, whiteness lived. And it lived as a state of being. Most particularly, white man. White man discovered. White man this. This is the first time that a white man, it was always distinguished, differentiated as white. Okay, so when the Civil Rights Act was passed, no wonder the poorest and the most downtrodden of the economic class caste lost their minds, because whiteness disappeared. It's like, for God's sake, all we got is our whiteness, and now you're telling me we can't have it anymore. Not only can't we have it, we can't even say it. We have to be colorblind. We can't see color. And if you think for a moment that that meant not seeing black, then you need to think again. Because black didn't ever disappear. Because there were always connotations for the word black that meant dark, ugly, dirty. that wasn't even associated with skin, okay? That was attached to us in order to dehumanize us. Anyway, the problem is whiteness itself. And white people are the problem that must be solved. See, I want you to hear me. All my white friends, all my woke white friends who listen to me, share this with your friends that don't. I am very interested in seeing their comments. The problem is whiteness itself, and white people are the problem that must be solved. White people need to understand where they fit collectively within the equation of whiteness in this country, and I dare say the world. You have had 3 generations of individuality and color blindness. You don't even know what the concept of whiteness as a state of being is. All you know is privilege. Because these are the things that are being thrown out there because they're more comfortable to talk about. Even they're not comfortable to talk about. But God forbid you talk about white. Because then you're talking about race. Don't say white. White people must begin to seriously study themselves and their own biases, prejudices, and feelings about themselves, honestly and truthfully, and then relate them to the idiotic notion of supremacy as a fact of color. You got to start thinking. You can't just assume this is the way that it is, that this is the way of the world. I mean, No. You need to sit down and study yourself. And study yourself as a collective and not as an individual. Okay? You need to discover at which point you lost your mutual humanity. And then throw your senses of mind and spirit back to that place and time to understand the mistakes and the lies. This must be done in order to understand who they truly were as human beings in the past, as well as why they are identified as a race today. You understand that? You have to go back and try to understand moreover, they need to begin to dissect those very concepts of themselves as inherently superior on the basis of the amount of melanin in their skin. Shed the privilege of individuality. See, they gotta start, white people, you gotta start thinking of yourself as a collective state of being. Yes, you are a state of being, because that is part and parcel of the ideology or belief in white supremacy. Unless and until you start approaching it from that collective standpoint, you're only going to see yourself as an individual and, oh my goodness, that's not me. I'm not that. I look at that man over there with the swastika on his forehead. That's a racist. He's a racist. She's a racist. They're not me. Anyway, let's see. Okay. They need to begin to dissect those very concepts of themselves as inherently superior on the basis of the amount of melanin in their skins, shed the privilege of individuality in its entirety for the purposes of discovering when they in fact weren't white and when they actually became a color unto themselves. In reviving their true history, white people will need to okay, this is going to get ugly. In reviving their true history, white people will need to smell the stench of some of their history's worst atrocities in the name of white, in the name of whiteness as a state of being, as a collective, as a group mentality. And they're going to have to do this against other human beings and devour their history's indelible past completely and honestly, even if doing so turns their stomach at every turn of a page or swipe of a screen. This, however, seems to be the most difficult part of owning their entire oneness with non-white people. Our shared human togetherness in one enormous world of thought, that frame of mind that for white people is purposefully elusive, exclusive, tucked out of reach by design. The desire to be the best at the expense of other human beings, even in the face of the true reality of their own fragility and inhumanity throughout history, can be too overwhelming and all-consuming for some. The cognitive dissonance may be too painful to experience for others, and still for many, the deception itself is actually what sustains them when nothing else can. The fact is that the only reason why there is racism and white supremacy on a world scale is because the masses of white people perpetuate it. Let me say that again. I'm talking about in an individual and collective basis. The only reason why there is racism and white supremacy on a world scale is because the masses of white people perpetuate it. Not because black people are this and black people are that. Not because God willed it this way, and not because having white skin somehow ordains the right to be inhuman in a human world. Let me say that again. It's not because God willed it this way, and not because having white skin somehow ordains the right of white people to be inhuman in a human world. Face it. Embrace it. Understand that you've been tricked by race and class. Neither actually exists except in the fictitious worldview that was created for us by the real power elite who do not even live among any of us. Moreover, in order for white people to dismantle racism and white supremacy, they need to understand that their problem is as white as their own skin color. I am recommending that both white and black people, at the sound of my voice here, read the book called Making Whiteness: The Culture of Segregation in the South by Grace Elizabeth Hale. It's a good book, and it's one of the books that I recommend for people to read to gain a better understanding. So here's the deal. Time and time again, for years on end, there's been this so-called black problem, the color problem, the issue of color. You name it. I mean, it runs the gamut, but it's always in terms of black people and us as the problem, when we've 've never been the problem. When we've 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 never been the problem We just have never been the problem. The problem has always been white people and their perceptions and what they believe and how those beliefs are expressed. And they are always expressed negatively. The entire concept of whiteness, which is, that whole thing that makes people feel like the concept of it makes people angry because and people see it as a negative thing, like that whole white power thing, is because it is expressed so negatively. It is a problem of white people. It's not a black thing. It is perpetuated, supported, maintained by the masses of white people who, for whatever their reasons, many very individualized at this point in time in history, perpetuate it and maintain it. Stop perpetuating it and maintaining it. Stop it. Find out what that whole thing means, what this whole whiteness thing means. It's definitely beyond color. Just like blackness as a state of being transcends the color black. I mean, we had to do that. Black people had to do that. We had to transcend color in order to make ourselves feel good about ourselves as black people. It became bigger than just the color black, because the color black, we already know the connotations surrounding that. So we said, yeah, all right, this is what you're trying to associate us with. Well, we're going to turn that lemon into lemonade. And we black and we proud of it. Okay? If you don't even have a concept of your whiteness, how can you be angry or even proud or whatever about it? You got to learn about it. You got to find out what your history really, really was about. And it ain't pretty. Get over yourselves. Get over the fact that you've done all of the things that you've done. That, it seems a little weird, a little odd that I'm telling white people to get over yourselves, because that's what they say to us. We have. Black people have. We've gotten over that. If we hadn't gotten over that, I think we would have been doing what they're doing down there in Venezuela right now. Fighting in the streets. Okay? We've gotten over the BS because we understand that whole concept of our blackness, but you need to understand the concept of your whiteness and what that represents. You got to understand what that represents. You got to understand why it represents such negativity. It's not because your skin is white. It's because of the ideology of white supremacy that you believe because your skin is white, incidentally, that you're better. And that is ludicrous. How many years does it take for that to start making sense? It's like McFly. Skin color does not equate. There's no equivalence between skin color and brains and superiority and just being better. And no. And all these years, for all of these generations, lying in the background has been a foot on the scale of opportunity, equity, equality, and justice. Are you hearing me? I hope so. There has been a foot on the scale. No, damn it, a whole damn race of people whose skin is white has been laying on the scale. Of equality, equity, opportunity, and justice for African American descendants of the enslavement. Find out what racism is. I got a video on that. Once you realize what racism really is, what it was designed to do, and how it has evolved over the generations to suit itself and to self-perpetuate. I mean, the system already knows it's got some willing participants in these masses of white people who just don't even want to do any research. They don't even want to care because they're given a piddling piece here and there. I'm starting to get heated. Yeah, excuse me, because I'm starting to get heated. I get heated every time when I'm talking about this because it's such foolishness. Find out what racism is. And if you don't know, I can tell you what it is, what it was. Tell you how the whole thing started. The system of racism that exists in all of America's institutions. I'm not talking about economic class casting, which happens to white people. You got your own subjugation, and it's only economic. But black people have subjugation in you only have it in the one area of human activity, which is economic. We have it in every area of life. Economic, law, war, political, religious, entertainment. There's so many. I think they're like 8 or 9. I can never get them all. But that's how we're subjugated. Imagine being subjugated in every area of human activity as opposed to just one. They're just controlling your money. They're controlling what you make. They're controlling how you live economically. But we are being controlled and subjugated in every area, including economically, education, everything. And the systems have systems built right in for that. And that is the only reason why you can profess to be superior, white people. That's the only reason why. Because if these things were not in place, laying in the background, you wouldn't have a superior leg to stand on. And that is not to say that we are superior over you. You know, that's what some people say. I mean, bull crap. Ain't nobody superior over nobody. But it can certainly be, the appearance can certainly be created through the system of racism. And it was created. Call it the black codes, that morphed into Jim Crow, which was really segregation. But I think it happened right after 1875 when they overturned that first Civil Rights Act that actually gave us equality, equity, or tried to give us equality and equity. And Andrew Johnson, I think it was his name, vetoed it. So, because there have been so many civil rights acts over the years in attempts to help us gain our rights as individuals and as citizens. But there have also been those things that kept it from happening. But racism as a system was designed in order to continue the lie that was initially created for these poor white people. So they put mechanisms in place for that. And this is what we've been dealing with for 300 of those 400 years. What? 1800s, 1900s, 2000. Yeah. 200 at least years in various forms. But anyway, I'm digressing again. White people, get over yourselves. Understand that whiteness is the problem. Get to know whiteness as a state of being. Get to know yourself as a collective, especially people born after the 1960s. And then come back to me and discuss it. You can always message me, and you can email me at Alease, Alease, Smith, EDD @gmail.com if you have any questions. You can visit my website at www.Alease-writer.com, and like and share, because I'm getting ready to get off of here. I don't know who's actually here. I'm going to check. It says 5 people. Let me see. Oh, wait, Mayani, I don't know how long you've been on here, but if you're still here, hi, sweetheart, with your beautiful self. Let's see if we got some more. Whoa. Okay, we got Kenny was on. Colin Bartle. Swanlin. Lawrence. Yvonne. Joel, Stacy, Willie, Michael, Bo, hi Bo, hope all is well, Stephen Phillips, Derek, Greg, hey Kaleem, hey buddy, I'm looking forward to our video conference on Sunday. Kaleem has got some big things coming down the pike, and I'm very happy that he wants me to be a part of it. Floyd, hey. Michael, Billy, Barry, Phoenix, Victor Snipes, hello. Motor City, I love that name. Motor City Eric, Larry. I'm waving to these people, but I'm not sure everybody's on. Paul. Here is another good read. Jonathan Metzl, Dying of Whiteness. Oh, I just read that. I just read that. As a matter of fact, it is. It's an absolutely great book. And it actually speaks to what I've written here. As with whiteness being the problem that needs to be solved. Yes. Frank Blanton, of course, Ayana, my sweetie, Philip Greer, and John Adam Garza. I don't know whether you all are on here because it says 4 people. I'm going to stick on here a little bit more. Do you have any questions? I know that there are a couple of my white friends on here. What do you think about about this video essay? What do you think about it? Do you think I'm just talking bull dungy? Do you think that I made any sense? Tell me, what do you think? Let me see in the comments. You always find it funny, though. I always say that. I always invite people to comment on my videos. But I don't get them that often. I won't bite. You can comment. In fact, I wish you would. Comment. Talk to me. Talk to me about what you think about what I just wrote, what I just read to you. Because it's pretty strong. I mean, I'm kind of going bam, bam, bam to white people to get them to wake up. Wake up. At some point, you're going to have to, because quiet as is kept. That man in the White House right now don't give two craps about you. And everything that he's doing for his constituency, not his base. He uses you, he uses his base for votes, because he knows he needs the base for votes. So that's where he stokes all of the anger and the fear and the hatred. That's where he does all that perpetuating that I talk about in my essay here. You know, I always talk about, you know, the reason why all of the, you know, racism and white supremacy still exists, certainly in this country, is because it's constantly being perpetuated by the masses of white people, either by complacency or by action. And you're beginning to lose your middle class. Actually, I dare say you've lost your middle class caste. And there wasn't no black person that did it. It was people with your color. Yeah, they jerking you around. It's okay. Somebody wrote Trump is the Antichrist. Yeah, you could say that. You could definitely say that if you run it in religious circles. He's something. He sure is something. Let me drink a little coffee. But, you know, a lot of white people don't think that. It's kind of, you know what's weird about it? They know something's happening. They know that there's problems with the air and the water, and they know that these jobs are going away, and automation is taking over, and they're losing their footing. But for some reason, they've got this blind loyalty to this concept of, dare I say, whiteness, without even understanding the entire nature of it, because obviously they don't understand it. Because I think if they really understood it, they'd realize it was a lie. One of the people I was arguing with yesterday, one of the white people I was arguing with yesterday, and these were people from my own hometown. They were arguing with me because I said, the hell with Kate Smith. She was a racist. Okay? She sang songs to demean people that looked like me. And if anybody found that funny, they can, you know, I have to pull back just a touch, just a taste, because I don't want to start cussing. Because sometimes I will get to cussing, okay? But one guy called me Dr. Seuss. That cracked me up. Oh, and one made a comment about my EDD, that it is not the same, and you can disregard that because it's not held in the same esteem. In my video I did earlier, I talked about both of those They are, one gets, the EDD is more inclined for administrative, doctoral administrative type stuff like presidents of universities, things like that. Okay, and PhDs are doctors of philosophy. EDDs are doctors of education. But they both take an enormous amount of work, time, effort, and the defense of a dissertation and study that qualifies you to wear your credential proudly. And damn it, I am Dr. Smith. And today is my anniversary, 1 year ago today. What time is it? Is it 1 o'clock? Or it's 12:30. I was just getting to Gwynedd Mercy University to prepare for the defense of my dissertation, Writing While Black, Exploring Perceptions of African American Writing in the 21st Century. Oh yeah, I touched on a lot of stuff. I touched on linguistics. I touched on writers and pseudonyms and passing for white as writers and code switching and just everything. I talked about in my video defense. I talked about having to resort to using softener words. You know, it was ironic when I did my, and this is a total digression from this subject, but I'm just going to talk about it. My grandson's mother is white, and she was reading my dissertation, and she said, "You know what? Your writing is a lot like mine." She said, my professors used to tell me I need to be a little more aggressive in my writing. Your writing is really passive." And that struck me because I'm always being told that I am too aggressive and I need to be more passive in my writing. So I discussed that in my video dissertation presentation about how, I had to use what I call softener words. And even as a master of writing studies, I still had to qualify myself with other peers in order for my writing to be taken seriously. Anyway, I don't want to get into the dissertation, but yeah, I was told I write a little too aggressively. Somebody said, that's right. Yeah, okay. Hi, Arlene. Oh, hi. Hi, people. Hey, Skip. I don't know whether you guys are still here, but I'm hitting the wave when I see you, because I don't really know how this thing works in terms of, like, it says there's an eyeball of 3, so I assume there are like 3 people watching. But then I see all these people who have joined in. That's right, let them respect your name. Yeah, okay, yes. That was LaGuaria de Dios. Hi. Yep. Oh yeah. I have there's a piece. If I can, I'm gonna see if I can find it. Hold on a second, because if I can find it, I will read that one little part. Hold on one second. I hope I can find it. Hold on one second, because if I can find it, I'm going to read that little piece. It is the... I hope I can find it. It's the final... Hold up. Final script. No. Hold on. I'm going to see if I can find this thing, because it was the script to my... Oh, I know where it, I know where I can find it. Hold on one second. I know where I can find it. It is OneDrive and Documents, and it is probably, let me find interview questions. Interview questions. I'm going to see if I can find it. God, I hope I can find it. I hate to do this to you. I don't even know whether anybody's still here, but you'll see it once it's... Email addresses, no. Crap, where is it? Come on. Interview answers. Interview answers. Oh no, it's not it. Oh, for God's sakes, I can't find it. It was that part about my dissertation where I talked about having to use those softener words, and it was some strong stuff, and that's why I wanted to try to get it maybe. No, I can't ever find stuff that I need. I can't never find things that I need anymore. Don't get old. That's the thing. Anyway, I don't want to digress any further. So if there are no questions, if you're not going to ask me any questions and you don't have any comments while I'm sitting up here still obsessing over this thing. Of course not. Of course the heck not. Oh, jeez. It was an interview that I did for Forest of the Rain, and that's what I'm looking for. And of course I can't remember where I put it. I know I emailed it, but I can't remember where I put it on my computer. So anyway, if there are no questions, if there's nothing that you want to say about this, after this video is done, I am going to upload it to my YouTube channel. You can subscribe to it, Dr. Cynthia Elise Smith, The Doctor's In. I'm going to have it on my formal page. You can find it at C.Elise Smith. And while you're there, you can like the page. And I'm going to, of course, have it on my website, C. Elise Smith, A-L-E-A-S-C. Nope, C. Elise, C. Elise, A-L-E-A-S-E-writer.com. And hopefully I'll find this thing. Oh, okay. Hey, George. How you doing? You know what I think I'm going to do? Hey, Albert. I think I'm going to stay on here for a minute. Do share with your friends. If you can bear with me, what is it? Is it lunchtime? It might be lunchtime for some people. I just really got to find this thing. And so if you can bear with me for just a minute, I'm going to see if I can find this interview. I am going to see if I can find it, darn it. Because it was good. It really was. It's not there. And I know it's got to be in the documents folder. Oh, jeez. Well, you can always go to Forest of the Rain Productions and find it. Okay. It's on Facebook, Forest of the Rain Productions. It's my, I wish I had pinned that, to tell you the truth. if I could, why am I obsessing? I am truly obsessing over this. So there are 4 people on here now. That's fine. What I was talking about was a video essay that I did about, it basically was 4 white people about themselves and how they need to get over themselves and begin to think of themselves as a collective, learn about how they became who they are as a collective, and why this collectivity of whiteness as a state of being is the problem and not black people. And I am going to search for Forest of the Rain. Darn. I'm going to search for this. I'm going to find it. I'm going to find it. Darn it. I wish I could have heard the conversation earlier. Well, you will. Because I'm going to upload it. And so you're going to see it from the beginning. You'll be able to actually get the entire essay. Oh, you'll be able to get the entire essay. I wish I could pronounce your name. You know who I'm talking to. Dios. You'll be able to see it. You'll be able to see it. Okay, hold up. Forest of the Rain Productions. Just started higher education. Here we go. That's that. I got it. I got my interview. Yes, I got it. Okay. All right, I'm going to actually read this interview for you because I don't know how many people read the interview. So you just call it another video essay. It's in their living academic research, and it's an interview about my dissertation. And I was interviewed by Dr. Michael A. Robinson, and he said, "What has driven your academic scholarship?" So I said, "By my drive for academic scholarship, I assume you mean my drive for academic achievement, especially to the level of a doctorate. If this is the case, it was purely personal. Since I retired before I finished my EDD, and prior to attaining that degree, I had not been involved in any way in education." And that, you know what? That's the thing. I'm not a teacher. I have never been a teacher. I've been a trainer because I've been involved in IT all my life. And there have been times when I've been responsible for training, but I've never been a teacher. But I've always been an educator and a speaker. And I said, I have been involved in technology profession. I've been a technology professional for many years, over 30, before I retired. Hey, Michael Bryan, how you doing, buddy? And so within the set of personal reasons, however, being a writer, and specifically an African-American writer, I am aware of the ongoing segregation of writing on account of race in this country, from screenplays to novels, articles in magazines, and scholarly research articles in journals. Another reason is that my work as an anti-racism essayist demanded a credential as an educator, inasmuch as the nature of what I convey to my readers requires scholarly and historical research and references from time to time. You know, some of the things that I write and some of the things that I say, and certainly what I say on these live videos, it's bad enough I had one person call me Dr. Zeus, and another one just tried to diminish the fact, of the EDD in its entirety. So it's important to have a credential, even if there are people who think that the one that I have is a little less than. That cracks me up. Anyway, listen, you know what I do. Anyway. So I said, still another motivator or driver was my mother and her focus on education as a means to succeed in a racist country. My desire for my mother to have 2 children at the doctoral level. Call it a little sibling rivalry if you want. But my brother Warren is a genius. He received his PhD from the University of Pennsylvania, and his course of study was biology, molecular biology, immunogenealogy. And when I tell you, because I used to type some of his papers, the man was a genius. And when I think he's retired now. We've been a bit estranged after my mother died. We haven't spoken since she died back in 2016. But I love my brother. And I do believe he's retired now. But his work at MUSC is legendary. He found the ABC2 transporter gene that is very significant. He discovered it. It is extremely significant in the study of Alzheimer's. That's where his focus was, down at MUSC, South Carolina. And I said one day there'll be little children doing book reports on Dr. Warren Davis Jr. But anyway, my mom was one of those kinds of ladies that loved to talk about her kids. And my daughter, she used to say, my daughter. Oh, somebody's coming in. Hold up. Hold on one sec. Oh, hold on one second. I'm doing a live. Come on in. Hi, Moo. My grandson. Hi, buddy. Hi, baby. I didn't know he was coming back here today. I decided to do this downstairs because of the scenery. Oh. Plus, I wanted to be in a different space because I was going to be doing a live test with someone who's going to be interviewing me tomorrow. Oh, okay. Anyway. Hey, Mike. Hey, Paula. Oh, good. I'm getting more people in. Listen, you're going to have to look at the video in its entirety once I upload it again to get the subject, because I have completely digressed from that subject, and I'm doing I'm actually reading the interview that I had with Dr. Michael Robinson from, Living Academic Research on Forest of the Rain Productions. And my interview, Writing While Black, Exploring Perceptions of African American Writing in the 21st Century. And so one of the questions was, I said, finally, my zeal for lifelong learning. Yeah, I mean, come on, I'm 65. I'm still trying to learn some more stuff. Is an ongoing intrinsic motivator. So his next question was, what is the topic of your research? And I said, the topic of my research is African American writing in the 21st century and exploring perceptions held in the 21st century relative to African American writing. And I said, my research asks the following questions. Are there differences in the way African Americans write than the mainstream of Caucasian writing? How are African American writers perceived, and our perceptions of African American writing are our perceptions of African American writing based on attitudes that may stem from historical and or contemporary racial biases, personal beliefs, social biases, and or racial stereotypes in the 21st century? And does racial identity drive perceptions and attitudes of African American writing? So then he asked me, please describe the significance of your study. So I said, the best way to describe the significance of my study would be to draw directly from the dissertation itself. So I say, and this is directly from my dissertation. Hold on a second, because I actually have to make this a little bigger. Okay. So I think that if I put this here, okay. Ooh, look at the degrees. Ooh. Actually, the biggest one in the back is the master's degree. That thing is huge. St. Joe's gives some big degrees. That costs a lot of money to do. But then my doctoral degree is up under the smaller undergrad degree. Anyway, I said, it is important to explore the impact of all perceptions, especially those based on stereotypes and individual biases, of what is relevant, important, interesting, and valuable in African American writing. In addition, the concept of what is considered acceptable may have a significant impact on how African American writing styles are perceived. There should be much more study on these perceptions, as well as the differences, if any, exist, because the information gained through more in-depth studies into these perceptions may assist in the understanding of the African American culture and provide a deeper empathy into its richness and diversity as a whole. I said, moreover, African American writers themselves would benefit from the knowledge of acceptable forms of writing styles in the mainstream and the understanding of what constitutes acceptable in American culture. In my view, writing is the most important way that individuals use language to render thoughts and ideas and express those thoughts and ideas to others, second only to speaking. Therefore, any person interested in exploring perceptions that are held in the mainstream culture in America of African American writing in the 21st century is the perfect audience for the inspection of, reflection on, or interpretation of the research data collected. It is doubtful others outside of African Americans themselves have probably given much thought to the impact negative perceptions of African Americans in general have had on the acceptance and validity of African American writing. Hey. So he asked me about some researchers that I used in my study, and I talked about that. But that starts getting a little citations and APA-ish. So I wanted to get the research nugget. This was the part that I was looking for. And this is the part that I hope that you stick around to listen to, because I really like this part. And it drives home a lot of my personal feelings with regard to being an African-American writer. Hanifa Barnes, a contemporary African-American... Oh, the question was there a research nugget, something you did not expect to find? So I said, Hanifa Barnes, a contemporary African-American writer in this century, wrote of the concerns she had for how she was perceived as a writer. Was I too white or too black? Did I use the right word choice? Were my subject and verb agreement intact? While the gist of the article she wrote was on language, the impetus to write the way one speaks and the concerns for identity, perception, and acceptance is a reality for African American writers. Now, this came directly from my dissertation defense. Ms. Barnes stated a concern that is echoed by many African Americans in terms of perception, that minorities tend to adjust speech and behavior to fit the situation in order to avoid profiling and negative perceptions. This was a quote by Ms. Barnes. Indeed, Ms. Barnes believed that the ability to code switch was a masterful skill and a delicate balancing act. Why would Ms. Barnes hold the perception of her writing to the extent that she felt she had to maintain a certain vigilance in producing the right word choices and a consistent cognizance of her grammar? Why would Ms. Barnes hold the perception of her writing to the extent that she felt she had to maintain that vigilance. When we understand the importance of writing as an expression of our thoughts and ideas, and we understand that writing has contributed to the successful professional careers of millions of people in the arts, we have to ask ourselves why writers like James Baldwin held the same sentiments. What is it like to be an African American writer in the United States today? Who even asks that question? How are African American writers perceived in the mainstream? Who even cares? And why would they? I've asked myself these questions and found there weren't any specific answers to be found, except among the anecdotal reflections of African American writers themselves, some long past, and all of whom I would never have had the pleasure and honor of engaging in discourse on the subject. As a student of writing studies in graduate school, the experience was a series of situational proving grounds where my writing was most often at issue in terms of its authenticity or qualification by my professors. Sometimes compliments on my writing were followed by the caveats that I must have had help or I had not written the work myself. Essentially, my writing was scrutinized, in my view, more stringently than my Caucasian cohorts, and the constant need for validation through external sources was consistently applied to my papers. I'm not referring to academ's requirement for referential proofs either. I'm referring to the kind of validation derived from the use of words I have come to differentiate as softeners, such as may, should, probably, and might, as replacements for more assertive words like is, are, and definitely. One of the major lessons I learned in my writing studies program was that the use of these softening words allowed me to write without a shred of personal authority and presence and still retain the context of my thesis, albeit to the exclusion of my dignity at times. My doctoral program experience was not very different from my graduate experience. In writing my IRB proposal and dissertation, I found that when I opted for these softener words, they were treated as more acceptable choices and less likely to be overly scrutinized or requiring additional qualification and validation for my writing to be determined credible. I came to realize that my use of more assertive wording implied, now this is the thing, my use of more assertive wording implied a perception of credibility and acceptance still foreign enough and too far between the acceptance that I should consider for myself, even after having attained a credential as a master in the subject of writing. So what does it all mean? It means that there is still a great deal of work to do to open up the subject of African American writing in a racialized America for this century and beyond. So, I'm gonna wave to you guys. Hello. That was part of my dissertation defense that a year ago today, exactly a year ago today at 1:00, I gave to my esteemed chairman, Rodney Altimos, Dr. Rodney Altimos, and my committee people, Dr. Lena Gould, Dr. Dawn Dennis, and, oh my goodness, Oil House Productions, my baby. Dr. Tangi Gilliam, Oil House Productions. Yes, indeedy. And, with my husband and my daughter and my very dear friend, Dr. Lynette Williamson, who had just a few weeks prior received her defense, did her defense successfully and became Dr. Williamson. Yeah. So, oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was a year ago today. A year goes by really fast. Goes by really fast, extremely fast. And, wow. Pretty soon I'll be talking about it in terms of a decade. Of course, I'll be too old and probably won't even remember. When did I go to school? My daughter always cracked me up. She said, you know, when you get older, you get that little southern accent. And I'm from New York City, so there's no way in the world I'm supposed to have a New York accent. I mean, a southern accent. But I find that as I get older and older, I get a little southern. Anyway, I'm going to get off of this thing. I got like 5 people. Oh, hey, Will. You joined in, huh? I'm on my iPad. I don't think I'm going to be able to get you on. But we'll try it again. In fact, I'm doing a test with a person who is supposed to be interviewing me tomorrow. I'm going to be doing a test for that. So I'm in a different place in my house so that I can see if this is more conducive. And if this works, if the test with him works for tomorrow. Oh, by the way, I'm going to be getting interviewed tomorrow. I'll put a link to it or whatever. It's going to be on Facebook Live. Hold on one second. Yeah, I'm going to be doing it, and I'll give you all of the details once that happens. So the original video, original video was a video essay for anybody who's just gotten on board. It was a video essay on, it was for white people, and it was about exactly who is the problem and what is the problem. And then, of course, I got off of that and onto this because I am really still, I did a video this morning because I was very excited about the fact that today is my anniversary, my first anniversary of obtaining, see, because, you know, graduation is one thing. That was on May the 12th, I think, yeah. And they confer you, and it's, you know, the pomp and the circumstance, you march down the aisle. Oh, yeah. She, you know, it's going to make me get misty. She passed. Yeah. Oh, I love my mother. I call her the Duchess. I loved her. And I wanted her to be there. I'm sorry. And I remember back in 2016, and I knew she was declining. She had lung cancer. And I knew she was dementia was creeping up on her. She kept getting pneumonia. And I remember when I came to visit her, I had a meeting downstairs with the doctors and the people at the nursing home. And I don't know, but still. But I said to her before I went downstairs, because we were just talking, I mean, we could always talk about stuff. And I said, you know, I graduate in 2018, and I want you to be there. And she looked at me and said, if you look at me, you see my mother. Because I look just like my mother. And she said to me, I gotta wait that long. And I said, yeah, you gotta wait that long. You gotta wait that long. It was in the summertime, and it was 2016. And then I went downstairs to the meeting, and they explained to me that my mother was declining rapidly. And you know how you see it, you know it, but you don't want to admit it. And by the time I finished, any shred of denial that I held, I lost. And I went back upstairs and I looked at her and I gave her a kiss and a hug, and she was smiling, and I said, you know what, Mommy? I said, if you don't want to be there, if you don't want to stay, you don't have to. I said, if you don't want to stay, you don't have to. You don't have to wait till 2018. And this was like right before her birthday in August. And she died 2 months later in October. So she wasn't there. I mean, I know people say that they're in spirit. And of course, I basically was told she was by someone who has the ability to see those kinds of things. And my mom had made certain promises to me that she did fulfill. Trust and believe after death. But I won't go into that. Oh, thank you, Mike. But anyway, I'm sorry. It's still kind of fresh. And I loved her so much. She was the funniest. Oh, she was so funny. Oh, God. My mother was a hoot. You hear me? She was so friggin' funny. Life of the party. Just. And she did the best she could to raise me and my brother. She really did. And this is to you, Mommy. That's what I said. When I got that drape, because, you know, we had to hold our drapes because they had to confer us. So when I limped on up to that stage and got my degree, and then you step down on a step and they take your drape and they put it around you and officially confer you as doctor. I said, this is for you, Mom. So now she got 2 doctors in the family. Yep. 2 doctors in the family. Anyway, yeah. And my goal, one of the reasons why I went back to school as well, was because it started in my undergrad. I said, ooh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get a 4.0. And my brother ain't the only one, you know, that sibling rivalry thing. You know, my brother. I'm going to do a 4.0. Well, in undergrad, I didn't do a 4.0. I did a 3.89, which is like a 3.9. And then in graduate school, I very well could have gotten that 4.0, which means I probably wouldn't have gone this far. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But, yeah. And, I got a 3.9125. So there's a 3.191. Another 3.9. So when I got into this doctoral program, I was bound and determined to get a 4.0. That means straight A's. That means every single subject for 3 years. 3 years. I was going to work my butt off. And I did. And I got a 4.0. What a way to finish, right? That's right. Yep. That's right. Hey, listen, I'm going to call you DeDios. I went back at 50. So going back at 41 is fine. I went back for my undergrad at 50. And guess what? I didn't even go back to do my doctoral degree. I was what? In 2015, what was I? 63? No, wait, 62? 60, wait a minute. Yeah. No, 61. 62, 63. Yeah, because I got it at 60. I received it last year at 64. So yeah, I was 61 years old. I was 61 when I went back to get my doctorate. Okay, stop playing. All right? So you're never too old. And this is what I was talking about in my other video. You're never too old to go back to school. You're never too old to broaden your horizons. Keep your brain ticking. Keep it ticking. Keep on thinking. That's right. Yep. Absolutely. If I was independently wealthy, I'd be in school right now. I was reading some posts for some of my cohorts from graduate school who are back in school getting additional graduate degrees and things and and I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that. I want to go back to school. I want to get some more degrees. I said, I'll be 80, 90 years old. My kids will be wheeling me up the ramp to pick up my 30th degree. And I'll be, can you read it to me? I can't see. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I guess I am a living testimony to that. Yeah, hey, look, lifelong learning. I am all for that. I am definitely all for lifelong learning. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, my mom instilled that in us. It was important, for so many reasons. Yeah, it's very important. So, but anyway, I mean, I just like I always say, every time I get on these live Facebook videos, I always end up talking about other things, and I kind of digress from my original subject. I get to flipping the hair around and all that kind of stuff, and because it feels like I'm having regular conversations with you guys, and I really appreciate that. It's nice to talk kind of back and forth like that. That's why I encourage questions and comments and things like that, because let's get a dialogue going. I know that what I'm talking about now isn't necessarily the same thing that I was talking about before, but do feel free once this is uploaded and the actual live portion of it has ended. Do feel free to comment, because I always go back to those comments and I acknowledge them. And not only do I acknowledge them, but I will, if you have questions or anything, I always respond to them. And as well, I do encourage you to message me. If you've got any questions or concerns, you can just jump right on Messenger and message me, and I will, and a lot of my friends do know that I do respond to Messenger. Hey, Carl Kelly. I do respond to Messenger, and I will answer your questions. Now, I won't respond to Messenger when it comes to how you doing, or any of the religious type things that I get. But if you have questions about what I've talked about, or in general my focus, yeah, definitely hit me up on Messenger, and I will definitely answer your questions or break things down. Because I've had people ask me, wait a minute, what did you mean by that? Can you break that down? And I do. I will. Yeah. Yep, I'll break it down for you so you can understand, because even though I'm not writing at a college level, I am writing at about a high school level. Okay, and our system of education does not generally graduate people beyond junior high in terms of reading and comprehension. It's a sad but true fact. This is why it's important for you to get books. And I'm not a reader, and that's the irony. I'm a writer, but I'm not a reader. I'm not really all that crazy about reading. Thank God for Audible.com. I've read hundreds of books through Audible.com, and of course, I had to get some of my books, like this one. By the way, I'm recommending that you get this text. It's called The Skin That We Speak, and it is enormously valuable, especially for people with children, even if you don't have children. And it's enormously valuable as if you are an educator, a teacher. It's edited by Lisa Delpit and Joanne Kilgore Dowdy, and it has a number of essays and chapters in here by different writers. It is recommended reading. It's a powerful and sophisticated reminder that words can indeed do as much damage as sticks and stones. You know, that's what I tell people, because I'm a wordsmith. That's why I break that stuff down. In some of my other videos, you probably will notice that that I talk about words, and I will break down, like I break words down a lot of times, and I look at the meanings of words and the subliminal meanings that they, on memes and things like that. And it says here, a powerful and sophisticated reminder that words can indeed do as much now. Can and do as much damage as sticks and stones. The skin that we speak takes the discussion of language in the classroom beyond the highly charged war of idioms, in which English only really means standard English only, and presents today's teachers and parents with a thoughtful exploration of the varieties of English we speak and the layers of politics, power, and identity that those forms carry. So it's got a lot of different things in here that are very, very valuable. Oh yeah, Audible is awesome. I've read hundreds of books through audible.com that I didn't even conceive of even being interested in reading before. This particular book, edited by Lisa Delpit, is one of the texts that I used in my study and as part of my lit review, chapter 2. All you doctoral candidates know about your chapters 2 lit review. So this figured in my lit review. Yeah, because there are not a lot of studies out there about African American writing and perceptions of same, but there are a lot of studies about linguistics and language. And I drew upon also a person who some literature, which was kind of sort of the basis for not the basis for the study, but it was an important part of it. Let me see if I can find it, it was Bloomfield, 1933. He explained writing as the symbolic representation of linguistics, that words are the linguistic units first symbolized in writing. Whoa. So I drew some of that in order to tie it, nice little bow around writing and linguistics. Hey, Mike T. So anyway, if there are no questions, I mean, I could sit here and just and chit chat. Hey, C. Muffle Jackson. Listen, I could sit here and chit chat like all afternoon, but I'm not going to do that. Gillis. Hi, C. Muffle. Mike T. Sean Allen. Robert. Estelle. Yeah, I could sit up and talk all afternoon. At this point, I'm in the introduction to my dissertation defense. Sometimes I just look back on it and I think, damn, you actually did it. You actually are Dr. Cynthia Elise Smith. You did it. You actually did it. Wow. Because there's this thing, I don't know what it's called. But it's got to do with feeling like you're a fraud. It's got a name. I read it somewhere. And it's a real thing. You feel in your mind, it's like, do I really do that? Am I really that? Did I really accomplish something this big? And then you kind of diminish it a little bit yourself, like, and all that. Yeah, but yeah, it was. It was hard work. It was hard work. It's hard work anyway, but it was really hard work being who I am because of the institution of racism that permeates the educational system. I mean, because I recognize it and I see it and I know how to navigate through it, it's still painful to see it and to feel it and to have it hit you, you know. I remember when my academic advisor wrote me an email during the time I was writing my dissertation, and he said, you write an awful lot in your chapter 1. I think you're going to need to cite your sources. I had to write him back and say, this is all my original writing. I am not quoting other people. It's me. You know, sometimes, people, because of preconceived notions, are under the impression that because you are who you are, that you somehow do not know how to express yourself or convey in the same, in a particular way. And, well, I mean, damn, if I couldn't write, I wouldn't have got that 3.9 in my master's program. And that could have been a 4.0 had it not been for this rather racist professor who shall remain nameless, but I think if she happens upon this video, she will know who she is, because she still tried to stalk me well after graduation from St. Joe's through emails to get me to come to the school because of a poem that I wrote. I actually got an A on that poem too, because she kept trying to stifle my, she kept trying to stifle me. I mean, that was it in a nutshell. She kept trying to stifle me. Part of your grade is participation in the class. And at every turn, she was chopping me off at the throat. And, the name of the course was, ironically, Writing Through Race, Class, and Gender. Now, my feeling was, if you didn't want to hear about race or just have race discussed as part of this course, then you should not have included it as part of your coursework or title if you weren't ready for what was about to happen. She felt like I was being aggressive and belligerent and all those other kinds of things, which is really ridiculous on its face. And she didn't want me to use any experiences that I had. And of course, like I said, she kept trying to thwart me in my efforts. But be that as it may, I wrote this poem, and I'm gonna get this poem. It's gotta read it to you. I gotta read it. It was in another class. Don't even ask me why we were asked to do a poem for our final, okay? Because I'm not a poet. I have written some poetry, but I'm not a poet. And let me see if I can find it. Here I go again. Trying to find it. I'm gonna find it. Here we go. There we go. I found this one. I didn't make you have to wait 20 million minutes. Okay. Let me give you a little background first. She walks in the classroom with this Holstein, this black and white, wasn't nothing lost on that, okay? Holstein cow. And she sits it on the table. At my booty poo. Anyway, she sits it on the table. And she begins this recitation of how we how we should learn to listen like a cow. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, the hell is wrong with her? And she's going on, and she's just thinking she's making so much sense on how to listen like a cow.
That's a challenge for you.
And it dawned on me pretty early on that she was directing her conversation at me to shut me up, because I like to participate. I like to communicate, and I like to be part of the class experience. That's why I chose St. Joe's as opposed to another online experience. I chose the brick and mortar classroom experience. So, I wrote this poem for another class. I got an A. And it's called, you want to hear it? Oh, hi. Mona Valerie, Dwight Willis. That's right. Oh, before I even get into this poem, it says the cost of college in the States is so expensive, but I'm not going to let that stop me. That's right. That's what I said. That's what I said. I said a prayer to myself. I said, just remove any barriers. This is when I was going to undergrad. I said, just please remove any barriers, especially the ones I sit before myself, to getting this education. Just remove them, take them away. And I just went for it. A number of colleges in the United States, Didios, are beginning to offer free tuition to citizens in America. I'm not sure where you're from, but yeah, a lot of colleges and universities are beginning to offer free tuition. Oh, okay. See you, sweetheart.
Thank you.
Bye, honey.
Bye.
So here's the poem. I wish I had more people on this live because this poem's funny. Anyway, it's called Listening Like a Cow. It took me a day, but I finally understood what she'd meant to say about what I shouldn't and should, how I should not speak and dare not bubble, and how to do otherwise would get me in trouble. She wanted to teach me how I should be, but mostly how I shouldn't be me. You shouldn't speak, but listen like a cow. She explained to me, but I didn't know how. How do cows listen? I ventured to guess. Did it mean that shutting up would mean my success? While everyone else was given a chance to speak and contribute and to enhance the class experience with every detail, I endeavored to abide so that I wouldn't fail. But it seemed at every turn, whenever I tried to add to the discussion, I would get fried. So I listened and thought carefully about what she was doing to me as a person and this kind of screwing. I remembered it was important to have a voice, and by stealing it, she'd also taken my choice to contribute or not, to give my 2 cents for the sake of being a lonely cow on the fence. So as she brought out her toy Holstein and sat it on the table, I thought about how cows couldn't possibly be able to consciously listen and then to critically think, since all they did was eat and stink. And because cows aimlessly grazed in the grass, I thought this woman should just kiss my ass. I loved it. The people in the classroom stood up. Yay, they knew exactly who I was talking about, and they knew that this woman was gunning for me. And it was funny because the professor, Professor Coyne, was it Coyne? Yeah, I think so. No, maybe not. I'm not gonna say it was him. But anyway, one of the professor that I read it to, the professor that I read it to, for my grade, in the workshop in the class, said I can't, because he was friends with her. So he was, I can't laugh, I can't do it. And what ended up happening was I'm pretty sure he told her and read her the poem. And after that, my girl was emailing me because for her class, now mind you, for the entire program, all I got was A's. And when I got to writing through race, class, and gender, I got a B. And so that knocked that 4.0 right out the water. Bam, just bloop, right out. But I knew where it came from. And she kept writing me, I've got your work here in the folder, and you can feel free to come by my office at any time. Peace. Now I thought, no, you didn't think, obviously, according to you, it wasn't my best work, so you can toss it. Come on, people. I got a computer. It's there. I don't need to get the hard copies from her. I said, you can toss it. Oh, that wasn't enough for her. I understand you're having a problem with the grade that you got. This woman must have emailed me 12, 13 times before it was over with. She was stalking. She wanted me to come there. She thought I was going to pop my head. I was going to get like this. And on her turf. I'm not stupid. I wasn't going to, come on. I wasn't going to let that Becky, and I'm saying that very derogatorily. I don't usually like to use that terminology, but she was a racist from the word go. And what was worse about her was because she thought she was liberal. She was a peace and love racist. Told me that she thought that I should have concentrated more on the feminist side of discourse in my writing and not race. And I basically told her where she could get off. But anyway, she kept on emailing me. And finally I said some things to her that struck home. Used a few literary skills. A couple of quotes from Nanny and the Duchess. And she didn't bother me anymore. But it had to come to that. Hey, Stephen Ward. Yep. So I thought you'd like that. Those of you who are still on here. I don't even know how long I've been on here. I think I've been on here much too long. I think it's been over 2 hours. So I'm going to get off of here before I end up talking about other stuff that have absolutely nothing to do with the original video. So enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to go upstairs and get back in the bed because I've been sitting here for a few hours and my body doesn't really allow me to sit or stand for very long periods of time. And I know that at the minute I get up, I am going to be spazzing out. So glad to have seen you here. Those of you who popped in and popped out, glad to know that you did jump on for however long you did. Do feel free to share and with anybody you think might be interested in this diatribe. Do feel free to share. And I will see you on another video essay. Dr. Cindy out.